Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything from hair to fashion to skincare products. We'll talk about the latest trends in makeup, hairstyles, and anti-aging remedies. And we'll cover all of the newest fashion trends. If you have an interest in or questions about the beauty and fashion trends that might work best for you, the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast has got you covered.
Welcome to the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Colleen, and let's just get into some beauty stuff. So I was thinking about all the different things that we could do on this podcast today, and I thought, you know what, why don't we talk about elevating your look when it comes to makeup. Now, I know that a lot of you guys probably, are going to work or you're going to school or something like that, and maybe you want to look a little bit more presentable, or you want to elevate your look a little bit without caking on that face. You don't need the whole foundation, concealer, eyeshadow, all that kind of stuff, but you still want to look presentable. Let's talk about the best ways to do that while I do my makeup with you guys. I think that's one of my favorite things to do, honestly, is just do my makeup and talk it out with you guys and explain to you, what I'm doing and how this could help your look in one way or another. And not only do I want to talk about just elevating your look and making you look a little bit more presentable for whatever you're going to without going overboard, I also want to talk about little things you could add to the look that maybe you already do every single day that might just give you that little extra oomph. So, first off, let's talk about the skincare. So I already did my skincare. I like to do this a little while before I do my makeup, just to let everything kind of sit in, but I don't like to do it way too early because then I feel like it's all sunken into my face and then I need more or something like that. So all I did today was my watermelon brightening serum from Milk Makeup. I also did my cooling water stick from Milk as well. Then over that, I used my e.l.f. hydrating moisturizer, which I really like. And then I used 2 primers, but this is a thing. So this is something I wanted to talk about, is you don't have to do a buttload of skincare before you do your makeup. I do suggest at very least, put on some moisturizer. Whether you're oily or whether you're not, I would suggest putting on moisturizer. And I do this even if I'm not going to be putting on any sort of base makeup myself. So even if I'm not putting on base makeup, I'm still going to put on moisturizer or something else to kind of hydrate my skin and just help it look its best and not look like it's, screaming for moisture or something along those lines. Even if you're oily, please do use a moisturizer. You may not think you need it, but trust me, I promise you, you will see a difference if you do use a moisturizer. Now, another thing that I put on primers. Now, I actually like to put on primers even if I'm not wearing a base makeup, but not all primers. So I put on my Hydro Grip primer, and sometimes this is all I wear on my face. And it's just because it gives me a nice glow, and I think it looks stunning. And I really think you can wear a primer on its own, but don't feel like you need to wear a primer. I don't think you need to wear a primer, but I think that they're fantastic if you're going to wear base makeup on top of that, like a foundation or something, to kind of help everything stick on and stay on for maybe a little longer than you'd think that it will. Now, of course, when it comes to primers, go for something that's going to work the best for your skin. I love the Hydro Grip Primer because if you are new here and you don't know, I am very, very dry skinned. I'm not oily, I'm not combination, I am very dry skinned. So this is really good for me. They do say this works for combination to oily skin, but I've never tried this personally on an oily skin or somebody with oily skin. So I would just go for something else. I also added a little bit of the e.l.f. Mineral Infused Face Primer. Now, this is a silicone dimethicone based primer, and I like to use this, but only on areas that I feel are looking like my pores are looking a little big. And I'll do this even if I'm not wearing base makeup, once again, just to kind of smooth over the face and give it a nice smooth look. And it still looks fantastic even if I'm not going to wear any sort of foundation. Now, this is completely up to you. Again, you don't need to wear primer. Just remember that. It's not mandatory. Primer is not mandatory. But I do think that sometimes doing a little bit of a pore-filling primer over your pores, obviously, even if you're not wearing a foundation that day, can kind of help to smooth out the look of your skin just in general. I would stay away from the Benefit Professional if you're going to do this, because I feel like wearing that on its own looks like you're wearing something and you're missing something, if that makes sense. I just don't think that one works the best. I know that this e.l.f. one does. This one's super cheap too, is like $3, $3 to $6, I think. I like this one a lot. It's cheap. You can get it at Target or Ulta. And this, I use the smallest amount, and it's a pretty big bottle. I think, let's see what it says. It's 1.01 fluid ounces or 30 milliliters. So that's a lot of product in this bottle, and I only need the slightest bit, and so this will last me forever. I like to use this on clients. I really like the way it looks. It's fantastic. So now that we've talked skincare, let's talk about our next step. So the next step I want to talk about is eyebrows. Now, this is something that I think can really elevate even if you're not going to do any other type of makeup. So basically, if you're not even going to wear anything else in your eyebrows or on your face, I think that at least running a eyebrow gel, whether it be tinted or not, through your eyebrows can really help to kind of make a shape and elevate it a little bit more. So this is going to give you a little bit more of a structured look without, full-on brow pomade or anything like that, running that through your eyebrows. So I would go with a tinted brow gel. Now you could stop after this. You could do just a little bit of maybe pore-filling primer or something. Obviously, your moisturizer. Skincare if you want to. Once again, none of this is mandatory. I'm just trying to give you a little extra tips here and there. 'Tis my job. So, but just a little bit of something through the eyebrow can really help. And I really think that even, like I said, a clear eyebrow gel just kind of help you shape. So you would brush up your eyebrow hairs, then run your clear brow gel through the hairs. And then after that, you can take your spoolie once again that you ran through your eyebrows originally and kind of shape the eyebrow into the shape you want. And that's really going to help your eyebrows to look structured, and they're going to look great. And this is just going to set them in place, so you're not going to be worried at all if they're going to move or anything like that. It'll set them in place without making them look crunchy or anything like that, and you're still going to get this nice structured brow without looking like you straight on drew. Oh, it is the morning, but like you straight drew your eyebrows on. This is just a nice way to elevate the face and make everything look a little bit more clean without putting a lot of makeup on. That's kind of the whole point of this, is just little things that you could do without putting a lot of makeup on, or even that you could add to whatever makeup you've already done or whatnot. Things that can just help here and there. Now I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we are going to continue with things to elevate your look.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast. Now, this entire podcast, I'm talking about little things that could elevate your look for your kind of everyday thing. And this, I'm trying to focus a little bit more on if you're going to work, if you're going to school, if you're going somewhere where you're a little nervous to maybe put on too much makeup and you think that it'll really change your look and you just want to add little things to kind of make you look a little bit more presentable. Now, I was talking about eyebrows before the break, and now I'm going to kind of talk you through exactly what I'm going to do so you can kind of understand what I've been talking about. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a clean spoolie brush. Now, I have one specifically for my eyebrows. This is just a BH Cosmetics number 17 brush. It's just a spoolie. I like this one. I've bent the tip so it's at an angle, which you can do with all spoolie brushes, and I recommend. But I bent the tip so it's at an angle so it's easier for me to get straight up at my eyebrows. So I'm going to brush my eyebrows up and kind of into the shape that I like the most. And once I'm kind of at that shape I like, which my eyebrows are a travesty, let me tell you, I need a good waxing or something, but that's okay. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about elevating your look. So now I'm going to take my brow gel. Now, this is a tinted brow gel. This is, if you're new here, if you're not, you know exactly what this is, but this is the Milk Makeup Cush Fiber Brow Gel, and I'm in the shade Dutch, which is a dark brown. And I'm going to take that, and what I like to do when I pull it out is kind of rub off anything that's a little too much on the brush onto the inner lip of the lid. Now I'm going to take the brush and just run that through my eyebrows, in just mostly focusing where I need a little bit more, maybe where I'm a little more sparse. And I don't go directly at the beginning of the eyebrow because that can make it look kind of blocky. I start a little bit in the eyebrow, right where my pupil or the color in my eye, I'm not sure, I don't know eye terminology, but right where my iris starts. And then I kind of brush that through and kind of shape it while I go. Once I've got a little bit on, I'm going to take that spoolie brush once again and run that through my eyebrow, shaping it, and that kind of moves the product around just a little bit to cover the eyebrow. And trust me, this is gonna elevate your look. This is gonna add a little bit more cleanliness to them brows, even if they're not so cleanly like mine. Let me tell you, I need a good brow help. I need a good pair of tweezers is what I need. Okay, so I've got one eyebrow down. Now I'm going to dip back into, sometimes I don't dip back into the product and I use whatever's left on the gel brush, but this is an older eyebrow gel, so I need to dip back in to get a little more product. Now, once again, on the other side, I'm going to brush through the eyebrow and kind of shape it to what I want with my clean spoolie. I guess it's a little less clean now, but then I'm going to take my gel, my brow gel, and do the same thing I did on the other eye, starting from about the color of my eye and going outwards. I'm going to brush up and shape into the shape I need, and anywhere that's feeling a little sparse, I might add a little bit more. Now I'm going to run that brush through my eyebrow. Now I want to tell you that while I'm running my brush through my eyebrow, instead of starting exactly where I started with the gel, I'm going all the way to the front of my eyebrow, and whatever is right there kind of moves to the front while making it a little soft and not as harsh as the rest of the eyebrow, kind of blending everything in together. The key when it comes to makeup is blending. Blending is what you need to just be aware of, because if something's unblended, it's kind of noticeable. And whether other people notice it or not, I notice. Like, I notice, and it bothers me personally, so I could understand if you're looking at it and you're like, why isn't this looking good? Maybe because it's not blended properly. I'm liking the way my eyebrows are looking, and I'm going to leave it at that for now. Let me tell you one more thing you can do to elevate a little bit further if you're feeling a little extra. This is something I like to do just personally, but it's not something you need to do. Once you've done that with your eyebrows, you're pretty much set. You could use a pencil and do the same thing, but I like a brow gel because things look a little bit more natural. But if you want to take it a step further, which I'm going to do, you can take a clear brow gel. This is the e.l.f. clear brow gel. This is like $1. I love this stuff. And I'm going to take that and run that through my brows. Just all through my brows, doing that same shaping motion to make sure I got the shape I like. And then I'm going to take that clean spoolie once again and really shape it. I feel like this helps everything kind of last a little bit longer. And I'm going to do the exact same on the other side. Now, this, like I said, this is not a necessary step. This is something I personally like to do, and I feel like it helps really last longer. But even if you're just using a tinted brow gel, or even just a clear brow gel, it's going to last pretty long just as it is. I just like to do this because I'm a little extra. Let's just say that. Now I'm going to take my mirror, look up close. I like the way things are looking, real natural, just a little bit more shaped like I want, and my eyebrows are good to go. Now let's talk about your eyes. We're going to move on to your eyes next. I like to do my eyes before I do my base, if I do a base, and even if you don't do a base, I would definitely do eyes beforehand, just because if you get any sort of anything that falls off of your eye onto your face, it's going to be a lot harder to get rid of if you've got something on your face already. Now, we're not going to go crazy when it comes to the eyes. Once again, this is just to elevate. I want to talk about different ways you can elevate, and then I'll talk about eyeliner. That's something I've been putting off in these podcasts for a while, and it's nothing against that. It takes some time, but it can elevate a look, and I do want to talk about that. But let's talk about eyeshadow. I really think that the best way to elevate a look without looking like you're wearing a lot of makeup is just to take like a bronzer or just a nice neutral brown color, nothing, something that's maybe not too dark. Just a lighter brown color, something that's just going to put a little bit of definition in your crease. Even a contour shade is really good for this. And you just kind of run that through your crease and blend it out. And it's really going to kind of elevate things without looking like you're wearing eyeshadow. Now I'm going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to explain this step by step.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast. Now, this entire podcast, I'm talking about little things you can add to elevate your look, especially when it comes to like you're going to work, you're going to school, something like that. Something that's going to elevate just a little bit without being too much. Something that'll make you look a little bit more clean, but not make it look like you're wearing makeup. And even if you are wearing makeup, maybe these are little things that you could add to kind of give a little oomph to your look. Now, I was talking about the eyes, and I was explaining about just running a shadow through your crease, like a little brown shadow through your crease. And I'm going to do this on myself and explain it as we go along. Now, I'm going to go into probably my favorite shade for this, which is MAC's Wedge. I have little individual eyeshadows. I've got a little palette, a little magnetic palette of brown eyeshadows that I got originally for my wedding, and I use these so much. I really love these. Super easy. This palette's really dirty, and now my hands are dirty. Wash your hands. Wash your hands. Okay, so I'm just going to take a fluffy brush. This is the IT Cosmetics with Ulta crease and concealer brush. I'm using the crease end, which is just a super fluffy brush. This is my favorite brush. Just any fluffy brush will do. And I'm going to dip into Wedge. And I did put on an eye primer. You do not have to put on an eye primer. I just like the longevity an eye primer gives you. And if you're looking for a good one, go for the e.l.f. eye primer. It's like $1 to $3, like $1 to $3. Super cheap, and it works just as well as the one that I'm using. The one that I used is the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion, and this is a lot more expensive. So just keep that in mind that you can get a cheap kind of alternative to what I'm using. I'm just using this one because I have it. I really like the e.l.f. one as well. I think when I ran out, I went and got this one, and I honestly don't see a difference between them. I think they're both really good. Really great eyeshadow primers. You don't need it, but this will add to the longevity, just if you want a little extra oomph. Now, let's go. I'm going to dip into this shade. Always tap off, if you could hear that. And I'm going to just run this through my crease, starting from the outer portion, because that's where I want the majority of the product to lay down first. I'm going back and forth with like a windshield wiper motion. And at the end, over where I first set the brush, I'm doing small circular motions, going back and forth, and then small circular in the edge, just to kind of really make sure that's nice, soft, and blended. And this is really going to just add definition to the crease. This will give you a little extra something without looking like you're really wearing a lot, kind of adding to that look, hence the entirety of this podcast. Now I'm going to do the exact same on the other side. Little circular motions at the edge where we originally laid the brush down, and then windshield wiper through the crease. Really going in for it. Sometimes it feels like you're blending forever with some shadows. And there are shadows that just blend out like nobody's business, and you're like, wait, why is this so easy? And it really comes down to the formula. I think the ones that blend out, probably one of the best, are the Jeffree Star eyeshadows, but you don't need eyeshadows that, I don't know, expensive. Eyeshadows are expensive to get a good blended look. if you're having trouble blending something, really just take your time and continue to go back and forth and blend. Now, I'm going to take a look in my mirror towards a natural light, like I always tell you to do, and I'm going to kind of see how I'm looking here. I really am looking pretty blended, pretty nice, pretty pretty. And I'm going to actually take that same shade on the brush, tap in, tap off, and I'm going to just put that all over the lid. Now, I'm not going for a sparkly look here. This is a matte shadow. I'm just going for a little extra oomph on my eye without being like, oh, she's definitely got a lot on here. I'm not going for something sparkly. I'm going for very neutral, very basic. Now, this adds just the smallest little extra oomph, like I said before, to my eye, and I really like the way that it's looking. Sometimes when you use a fluffy brush on the lid, you'll deposit a little bit more product on one lid than you might on the other, so just kind of go back, tap in, tap off, add a little more as needed, and really kind of circular motion, light tapping on the lid since this is right on top of your eyeball. You don't want to stab yourself in the eyeball. That's the absolute worst. Don't stab yourself in the eyeball. That's my real tip here. Just be very gentle. The skin on your eyes is very delicate, and the skin around your eyes is really delicate, and your eyes are delicate. So just when you're doing anything that has to do with your eyeballs, just be careful. Now, I really like the way this is looking. Now, you could just leave it at this, but I need to talk about eyeliner. I need to talk about eyeliner. We haven't done this yet, and I think it's just high time we take a second, take a step back, and talk about eyeliner. Now, this is not something you have to do, but this is something that could really elevate a look if you're looking to go for something. Now, if you did this basic kind of brown eye and you decided to go to work like that, but then maybe you're going to go out and have a drink with your friends or go see a movie with your friends or something like that, and you want to kind of zhuzh it up a bit, adding a little bit of eyeliner on top of this would be stunning. Just stunning. Now, my favorite eyeliner is the NYX Professional Makeup, well, it's just NYX, NYX Professional Makeup Epic Ink Liner in the color black. This is a dupe for the Kat Von D liquid liner in the color Trooper. I had both. I still have my little sample size of the Kat Von D one. I just find this one's way cheaper, and it's basically the exact same thing. Now, another good tip, I know if you're hearing meows in the background, I got cats running around the studio right now. Just saying. But another good thing that can help elevate your look without being too harsh when it comes eyeliner wise is you can go for a brown eyeliner. Now, I talked about this in my new things from Target podcast, and this is the Creme Shop, Creme Shop, Faux Freckle Stamp in the color Deep Brown. On one side, it's got a little heart stamp, which is my absolute favorite. And it's in a nice little brown color. And on the other side, it's got a little thing for freckles, like to make fake freckles. I find fake freckles don't look good on me. Just saying. So, a good thing that I like to use this for is just to do a little bit of brown eyeliner. I like to do a little brown wing, and this kind of adds a little oomph to my look without looking like you've got this nice, dark, sharp wing on your face. I really like having a nice, soft brown wing to add a little bit without being too in your face. Now, you don't have to do eyeliner. You can skip this step. But I did want to talk about this since I've worn eyeliner in some of the photos that I've posted on the different social medias at GSMC_beauty tips on Twitter and GSMC beauty tips on Facebook. But I've worn eyeliner in those, but I've never explained how I do it. And I really think it's high time that I do. I've just been putting it off because it's kind of difficult to explain and talk through and do at the same time. But I'm going to try my best. And I think I'm going to go for a brown liner today instead of a black liner to give myself a little extra oomph without being too much. I'm going to see my mother-in-law, so I don't think I need a harsh wing today. It's nothing exciting that I'm going to do. It's not that it's not exciting, it's just that I don't think it warrants a big black wing. Now, I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to tackle the eyeliner.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back to the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast. Now, this entire podcast, we're talking about little things to elevate your look, whether you're going to work, to school, or just for your everyday look. Now, I've been putting off eyeliner on this podcast for many a time, and now is the time that we talk about eyeliner. So I talked a little bit about it before the break, and now I'm going to do it and explain it to you as it goes on. Alright, we're doing brown eyeliner. I'm using the Cream Shop Faux Freckles stamp as my eyeliner today. It is a felt tip, and we're just going to go for it. Hopefully my description is good enough for you. So what I like to do is start out with the wing. I don't like to start out with drawing the line across, because then I get too kind of in my own head if they're even or not. So I like to start from right at the corner of my eye and pull it out just a smidgen. Okay, now I'm going to do the same on the other eye. I always do eye to eye, so that I can make sure they're as even as I possibly can. I'm looking in a mirror, and I'm kind of tilting my head upwards as I do it, so I can really kind of see the angles that I'm getting as I'm going along. Oh boy, here we go. Now, if this line isn't straight or anything like that, don't worry, because we're going to clean it up. Once again, this is why I'm doing any sort of base that I do after I do my eyes. This is one of the reasons I do that. Now I'm going to take from not the tip of that line that I just made, but right under it, and I'm going to drag it to my lid. Here we go. And drag. I have a shaky hand today. I had a Red Bull. That's the problem. And I'm going to do the same on the other eye. Here we go. Now I'm going to take a look at those two and decide how I'm feeling about it. I'm going to take my mirror, bring it real close up to my face, and kind of decide how I'm feeling. I'm liking it, and I'm going to fill it in. Now, I didn't take it all the way to my inner corner when I pulled that line in. I took it to about my mid-eye. Now, I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing it's as even as I think I'm going to get it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a makeup remover wipe. Now, you can do this two ways. You can do this with your finger or with a pointed Q-tip. And I'm going to take my finger, and I'm going to put it in my makeup remover wipe and kind of wrap it around my finger so it's just on my finger and there's no wrinkles, and I'm going to take the edge of my nail that has it and kind of just clean up that line right underneath to make sure it's as sharp as I want it. Now I'm going to move my finger so there's no more any of the color that I might have taken off when I was making it even. I'm going to move it to a different part, and I'm going to do the same on the other eye. Now, this can be tricky depending on how you do it. Now, I think that really kind of evened everything out. I was feeling a little uneven, and doing that really kind of helped even out the look. And now I'm going to take that same eyeliner and make sure I didn't miss any sort of spot and kind of just fill in as close as possible to my lash line here. Because I do see a little bit of a space between my lash line and the eyeliner that I might have missed. You gotta really get it in there. Sometimes running it a little through your lashes really helps. And it's not that I'm like trying to get it all over my eyelashes. It's just to get it on the base to really help it out. Now, you can leave it like this, or you can go all the way into the corner. I might just leave it this way. I'm going to decide as I do the rest of my face, since this isn't going to be an issue if I do continue on here. I like the way it looks. I'm still feeling a little uneven, and I'm unsure why, but as I start to do the rest of my face, I'll kind of understand what I'm missing here. Now, this is another reason, like I said earlier, that I like to do my base before, or my eyes, before I do my base. And it's because if I'm going to do a wing especially, I want to be able to clean that up without either cleaning it up with extra product, which you can do if you use a concealer to clean it up, but I like to clean it up this way with some makeup remover just in cases. I don't know. I just like the way it looks the best. And also then I don't have to add any more makeup in where I have cleaned up that line at all or anything like that. I really just kind of like to do everything and not have to take away and add on depending on what it is. I'm liking the way the eyeliner is looking with my nice just brown through the crease and brown on my lid. It's nothing over the top. It's just enough to make me happy, I guess. So the next thing I'm going to move on to will be my face. Now, I don't know if I'm going to add any sort of foundation today, but I'm definitely going to add a bit of concealer underneath my eyeballs, and in the inner corner kind of area next to my eye. I like to do that along my nose because those are the places that are the darkest and have the most darkness in them for my face personally. Look at where on your eyes is going to be the darkest places. Sometimes it's a little on the outer corner. Most of the time it's under the tear duct, kind of in that area, and you're going to add a little concealer there. Like I said, just a little concealer there and blend it out that way. Now, obviously, I'm going to explain this a little bit better in a minute, but I think at this point I would also just maybe put concealer in the places that I need the most. I've got a little bit of spots going on, but my problem is I don't have a concealer that matches my skin tone at the moment. The concealer I have is more of a brightening concealer, so it's a shade lighter than the concealer that I would normally use. This is going to help kind of highlight and brighten those darkened areas that I just talked about. So the area that's in my inner corner kind of area of my eyeballs and right underneath that tear duct area where I get the most darkness, that's where I'm going to add my brightening concealer, which is the shade lighter, and then I would normally take a concealer that's the same color as my skin on any sort of little spot that I have going on, which I do have a few little spots going on. I'm looking in the mirror here. I've got one right on my upper lip and one kind of next to my smile lines. Now, I have these because I did a face mask and I don't think it agreed 100% with my skin. Always be careful when you're doing any sort of face mask. Like, just kind of take that into account. Be careful because sometimes they can irritate your skin if you don't know what's in it. And I took a risk and now I've got some little bumpies on my face. That's my bad. My bad. But I do like to try things out to kind of see what works the best, not only for my own skin, but what could work for other people's skin as well. And I don't know if I would recommend that face mask. The rest of my face looked good, but it did leave me with a few little blemishes that I'm not 100% happy about. They're just little raised dots. I don't think that they are zits. I just think that they're little raised bits, maybe some heat bumps, something like that. But once again, like I said, I don't have a concealer that matches my skin tone, so we're going to work off of that. Now I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to start on with the face.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast. Now, this entire podcast, we've been talking about little things to elevate your look, kind of little good look tips that will help when it comes to elevating your look without looking too much. So if you're going to work or school or something like that, you want to look a little bit more evened out, a little bit more oomph than normal, but without being too much, if that makes sense. It should, if you've been listening to the rest of this podcast. If you started here, why are you here right now? Go back and start from the beginning. But anyway, let's move on to the face. Now, we were just talking a little bit about the face, and I'm going to go first into my concealer, which I'm using the Milk Makeup Flex Concealer in the shade Vanilla. Once again, this is my highlighting shade, not my actual face shade. I'm going to take a tiny bit of that, and I'm going to dot it right in my inner corner area. That's where I get the most darkness, and one little tiny dot underneath my eye. You do not need more than this. Don't go with the big triangles. It's very obvious when you do that. This is kind of a look. It's kind of cute the way it is, but that's not what we're doing today. I'm going to take my Tati Beauty Blendiful, which I talked about in one of my last podcasts. Go listen to that if you haven't. And I'm going to scrunch it up like a little taco and use one of the corners to just blend that out in a patting motion into that inner corner area. And I'm not blending out very far. I'm doing little patting motions on top of it and kind of going up and down without going too far, because you don't want to blend this out too far. I'm trying to concentrate the product in the area that I need it the most, which is going to be those areas where I get a little bit of darkness. Now, you can do this before or after you do any sort of base makeup, like a foundation, but I would definitely recommend doing it before, because it is meant to cover those dark circles, and you're not doing much if you're already putting something on top of those dark circles. I'm going to take my thing. I really like this Blendiful for concealer. Now I'm going to do the same on the other side. I always do side by side. Some people do one whole side and then one whole other side when it comes to their makeup, but that's, once again, personal preference. I like to do it side by side to make sure I'm as even as possible on both sides. Obviously, I'm not going to be 100% even. I'm human. Nobody's 100% even. If you are, you're, I don't know, an alien, and I'm very curious on what you look like. But I'm going to make sure everything's kind of blended out. Looking closer in my mirror here. I do a lot take my mirror close and far away to kind of see what I'm looking at. This is blended out phenomenally. I'm feeling a little darkness still on my left eye, but I think I'm going to leave it because I don't want to pack on too much product. Now, I'm feeling sufficiently highlighted in those areas I need it. Now, I was debating so hard whether or not I was going to put on any sort of foundation, but like I said earlier, I do have a few blemishes, but I don't have a concealer that matches my skin tone. So I'm going to take my Milk Makeup Sunshine Skin Tint, and it's a pump with a little roller ball, and I'm going to put that on the, kind of dotted on the areas I need a little bit of coverage. This is almost an exact match for my skin tone, which is insane to find. If you do, you hold on to that and you love every bit of it. But I'm going to kind of dot that on the areas. This is my personal. This is not going on anybody else, so I'm putting it directly on my face. It's also kind of hard to put on the back of your hand because it is a roller ball and there's only so much that comes off. Now I'm not going to take my Tati Blendiful for this. I'm going to take a dampened beauty sponge. This is the Wet n Wild beauty sponge, and I'm going to take the butt of this and kind of just bounce that in those areas. I don't want too much makeup on my face today. I want to look as natural as possible. Doing the same on the other side on any... Ooh, that's too much. That's okay. We can fix it. That's why I like the beauty sponge when it comes to doing any sort of foundation. I'm finding, still playing around with the Blendiful, so I'm not 100% on it yet, but I like the beauty sponge because it soaks up any excess product, and I'm trying to do minimal product here. I don't want a lot of product. I just want a little bit. And once again, that's kind of going with our whole theme here. Oh, I got a little red spot here. We're going to cover that with my foundation. But we're going for natural. We're going for elevated without looking like I'm going to a nightclub kind of thing. We're going for elevated. Now I'm going to put the tiniest bit on my nose. I definitely think the blender works, or like the blending sponge works the best on my nose. This is a personal preference, and it's mostly because brushes and all that kind of stuff, and just foundation in general, sticks weird on my nose since I am super dry, and that's one of my very dry areas. But I just think that the sponge for me works the best on the nose. But once again, like I said, I'm still playing with the Blendiful, so I will let you know how I feel about it as I continue to play with it. Now, I am going to take a look at what I've done here. I've kind of put little dots all over my face just to even out my skin tone, and I think I'm looking pretty good here. Nothing too much, just enough. Maybe I'll put a little on the sides of my nose where I have the most redness. Now, once again, if you just have a concealer that's your skin tone, I would say to just be going with that right now. You could just put a little bit of that on your blemishes, kind of cover it up, and go from there. Now, if I used the concealer that I used underneath my eyes on my blemishes, it would actually enhance those blemishes since it's a highlighting shade for me. It's a brighter shade. And I'm not trying to highlight those blemishes. I'm just trying to cover those blemishes. I mean, I can still kind of see them, but also this is a very sheer formula. This is the skin tint, not a medium foundation. This is a skin tint. I'm trying to still show my skin. So my blemishes are still somewhat there, but they're not as prominent. They're still kind of covered, and they're not red anymore because they have been covered with the color of my skin tone here. I'm really liking the way that this looks. I'm looking fresh, I'm looking very dewy, which is what I like the most, and I think is actually very popular at this point, which I'm super excited about. The more dewy, the better. Bring on the glow is what I'm saying here. Now, you could leave it at this. You don't even need to put on foundation at this stage, but you could leave it at this and it looks fantastic. I love the way it looks, but I'm going to elevate it a slight bit more with a little bronzer and a little highlight. Now, like I said, you don't need to do this step, but if you're trying to elevate your look, this can help. And a lot of times I don't wear a foundation and I'll wear just a highlight or bronzer and highlight on its own without any sort of foundation or base makeup or even eye makeup. And I think it really kind of helps to elevate. Now I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to explain a little bit of my ways of doing these things and how you might be able to bring them into your everyday look or elevate your look with them.
The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast. Now, this entire podcast, we've been talking about little extra ways to elevate your look. Now, you could stop here. You could just add a little mascara and go. You could do whatever you want, but I wanted to kind of add in highlight and bronzer into this because sometimes if I'm doing my makeup and I want to look a little elevated, maybe I'll just do my eyebrows, some highlight and contour, and that's it. Now, this I think looks lovely and can look very natural and really kind of add a little extra to your face without being too much. Now, for this, I'm going to use my Milk Makeup Bronzer matte bronzer in the color Baked, and I'm going to use my MAC cream color base in the color Pearl. I want to reiterate the fact that you don't need to use the same products I'm using. Use whatever you have at home or whatever is readily available to you or whatever's within your price range. Like, these things are a little bit more on the pricey side and you don't need them. You can always find good, cheap options. I promise you. There's always good, cheaper options out there. Target's a good place to go. Ulta has a whole drugstore area, great place, that kind of thing. Just kind of do what's within your price range and with what you have. That's just what I want to reiterate here. Now I'm going to start off with bronzer, and I'm going to take this bronzer. It's a stick bronzer, so I'm going to take it on the back of my hand, kind of warm it up, and add some product to the back of my hand. Now I'm going to take my beauty sponge, and I'm going to take the butt end of my beauty sponge and dip it in there, and I'm going to go right in the hollowish area and lay it down and tap. I'm going to tap upwards because I'm bronzing the face, not contouring the face. I want to make my face look a little bit more bronzed. Now I'm just tapping, tapping, tapping. You can probably hear that. I wonder if you can. Can you hear? It's a fun sound. Now I'm going to take my mirror towards a good light source, and I'm going to look at that, and I think that looks really good. Now I'm going to do the exact same, dip back into the stuff on my hand, but I'm going to do the exact same on the other side. Now once again, I'm tapping upwards. I'm tapping upwards because I'm bronzing, I'm not contouring. I'm not trying to chisel my cheekbone. I'm trying to add some warmth into my face. That's the difference here. Bronzing and contouring are two completely different things, and that's something I see a lot when it comes to beauty influencers, is they do a lot of bronzing as contouring, and it looks muddy. And that's because this is supposed to warm the face, not contour the face. Now, I think I'm looking pretty sufficient here. Very bronzed, very beautiful. I mean, I'll keep blending over it with that sponge over and over again until I feel I've got really the payoff and the coverage and the blend that I'm looking for. This is a good color for me. I love it. Now let's move on to highlight. I'm going to take my matte cream color base in Pearl, open that up. I'm going to take the pointy end of my beauty sponge. Now this is the Wet n Wild beauty sponge, so it has a flat edge. As well as the rest of it is rounded. So I go on the flatter edge at the point and I dip into my cream color base here. And then I take that and I kind of stamp it on the high points of my face. Now I'm going to take the back end, which is still round, and use that to blend. Because I want a beautiful blend, I don't want a stripe on my face. That's something I also see when it comes to influencers. You see this stripe of highlight. And that's not what you want. You want a nice, beautiful, blended highlight, something that's going to look beautiful and natural. And if you're doing this and you're not doing any sort of other makeup on your face, like I said I do before, you want the most seamless blend. Because otherwise it's going to look very noticeable that you're wearing something that's, you're wearing a highlight and you're wearing a bronzer and or contour. This helps to really diffuse that and make it look very natural and like your skin, but a little better. And that's the whole point of this, is we want to look like us, but a little elevated. Just a little bit. Now I'm going to look in my natural lighting, like I always will, and maybe add the tad bit more on my left side. I always seem to add a little less on my left side. I think that's just a personal problem. Now I'll take whatever's left on the sponge, put a little bit on my forehead right above the brow bone. This is just places for me to highlight. A good way to do this is kind of look around in the mirror and see what's already naturally highlighted and add according to that. Whoa. I might have just bounced some bronzer on my forehead. Cool. That's okay. It's always something you can fix. And it looks like I didn't, so I'm okay here. Put a little bit on my Cupid's bow. This is a personal preference. I just like the way this looks. And I think, I'm looking pretty sufficiently highlighted and beautiful. Now, that's all I'm doing. Maybe I'll put on a little chapstick or something. If you want to put on a little lipstick, go for it. Sometimes the best look for this, or the best thing for this type of look, is to kind of go for really natural and a bold lip. Now, I went super natural here because this is something I could wear to work. This is something I could wear to school or something along those lines. This is something very natural and like you, but elevated. Obviously, I added the eyeliner, which is a little bit more, but you don't have to. Now, I probably will put on some mascara, which I totally just spaced about in this, to be honest. I'll do that right now while we're talking here. Now, once again, there are a lot of times where I will actually forget steps in my makeup routine, and that's okay to do. Like, I forget a lot of steps. I forget mascara all the time, and it's not that big of a deal, is what I'm trying to get at here. You don't need a buttload of makeup on to look beautiful. Makeup is here to enhance the features you already have. You can go ham if you want to. I think we'll have to do a podcast where I do a really over-the-top avant-garde look, and that'll be fun too. But I don't think that, for an everyday look, you need to do that. Unless that's just you and you love to do that kind of thing, then go for it. I'm not stopping you. Makeup has no rules here. It doesn't. And I want to get that across too, is there's no rules to makeup, but this is kind of a good way to start, especially if you're starting out with makeup. This would look good with some brown mascara, but I don't have any readily available to me at the moment. So, is that a dog hair that's on my eyelashes? It was. That could have been bad. So, I'm going to run my mascara through my lashes. I'm going to take a clean spoolie, not the one I used for my eyebrows, and I'm going to run that through. If you don't know, this is my favorite tip for eyelashes, is just to run a spoolie through after you've put your mascara on. This gives you a nice natural look and really separates those lashes to look absolutely beautiful. And if you're kind of scared to put on mascara just in general, if you're new to makeup or something along those lines and you're just not sure and you're like, man, this looks like a lot, this is a really good way to do this. This is what I just recommend to everybody because it's stunning. I do this on clients, I do this on myself. It's just my favorite. Obviously on clients I use disposable wands. I have a special one for myself, but this really just helps to elevate everything, and I love, love, love the way this ends up looking on pretty much everybody. When I'm running the spoolie through my eyelashes, it's going to be while the mascara is still sort of wet, so I can manipulate the lash. I don't want to do this when it's dry because it's just going to be pulling at my lashes and pulling off that mascara that I put on in not good ways. So I think that's about it. Looking nice, fresh, dewy, natural. That's the whole point of this, is looking a little bit, or very much like you, and just a little elevated. Obviously, you don't have to do every step. You can do one step. I just hope that this helped you guys in a little bit if you're, just trying to figure out some way to add makeup into your work look or your school look or something like that, or even if you're just starting out and you're not sure what to do. So, I hope this helped you guys, and I want to thank you so, so much for sitting down or whatever you're doing on the treadmill, in the car, whatever you're doing, and listening to me and hanging out with me while I explain to you some of these great tips that you'll hopefully get a little bit of use out of. And once again, I want to thank you so much for listening to the GSMC Beauty Tips podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Colleen, and I'll talk to you in the next one.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network, from health and wellness to entertainment and life and happiness to sex and relationships. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast.